Okay, next task is to allow users to cancel activities, and what we'll do, we'll add an additional button for those that are managing an event onto the left hand side here to allow them to do so. And that's going to be a toggle, and we'll add some user interface elements to let them know that the activity has been cancelled. So what we'll do, head back to VS Code, we'll go back to our activity store, and what we'll do is we'll add another method inside here. Again, it's going to be a toggle to cancel the activity. So what we'll do, just underneath this method, we'll add a new method called cancel activity toggle. And it's going to be an arrow function, as always inside a class. We'll make it async. And inside this function, we'll use our loading indicator, and we'll set this to true straight away. And we'll add a try catch block and pass in the error. And we'll also add a console.log and say error. And we'll add a finally block again. And we'll say that we want to run in action. And we'll pass the callback and say list.loading equals false. And inside our cancel activity toggle, we're actually going to be, of course, using the attend method to do this, because our handler on our API is really just checking the user that's sending this request and deciding what to do. So what we'll do is we'll say await agent.activities.attend once again, and we'll say list.selectedActivity.id, and we'll need to swap this for the bang operator. And then we can say run in action, and then we can say list.selectedActivity.isCancelled equals, and then we'll just use the not operator and say list.selectedActivity is cancelled. So we're just using this as to set it to whatever the opposite of what it already is set to. And once again, we need to use exclamation marks here. Lots of exclamation marks in this one because our activity for our selected activity can either be an activity or it can be undefined. So all we're doing is overriding the TypeScript safety here to tell it that this is not going to be undefined when we're calling this method. And then we'll say list.activityRegistry.set, and we'll say list.selectedActivity.id, and we'll pass in list.selectedActivity. And once again, we need to swap the optional chaining for the exclamation mark, and we need to do the same on this side as well. And that suffices for this method. Let's go to our activity detailed header. And inside here, what we'll do, we'll just add a label at the top to add information that the activity is cancelled. So just below the segment here, we'll say activity is cancelled, $ampersand. And then inside here, we're going to add a label that we get from Semantic UI. And so that this appears in the right place, we'll actually give this some style. And we're going to set its position to be absolute. And I found that we need to give this a z-index so that we can actually see it on the page. Otherwise, it will be put back to the back of the what's on the browser. So we'll just give it z-index of 1000 to make sure it definitely appears. We'll give it a left property of -14. And we'll give it a top property of 20. And then we'll say ribbon, and we'll give it a color equal to red. And the content we'll say is equal to cancelled. And let's move some of this down a bit. So this is going to display a flag or a ribbon on the header to show that the activity has been cancelled. And then we just need to add the new method, so cancel activity toggle from our activity store. And let's go down to our buttons area where we've got our activity is host. So we're going to add an additional button. So we'll need to add the fragment here. So we'll cut our original button and we'll paste this one in. Let's try reformatting things here. And what we'll do is above this button, we'll add another button. So we'll add a button, make it self-closing this time. And we'll give this a color, and we'll use this button as a toggle. So we'll add an expression here, and we'll check to see if the activity is cancelled and use a ternary, and if it is cancelled, then we'll make the button green. And if it is not cancelled, we'll make the button red. And we'll make it floated equal to the left. And we'll make it basic. and we'll give it content equal to activity.isCancelled, and once again we'll use a ternary and we'll say reactivate activity if it is cancelled, and if it's not, then we'll say cancel activity. And then we'll give it the onClick event, and all we need to do here is pass in the cancel activity toggle method, and we'll give it a loading flag equal to loading. And what we'll also do is we'll just disable the button to manage the event if it is cancelled. We'll make them have to reactivate it in order to make any changes to the event. So we'll say disabled equals activity.isCancelled. And we'll also do the same for the button that allows a user to join an activity. So in this button, we'll also add the disabled flag as well. And it's getting a bit messy around here. Let's try and reformat, which isn't working very well when the component has lots of fragments in it. Messes up the formatter. So I'll just do a bit of manual tweaking, and that's more like it. And what we'll also do is we'll just add a user interface element on the activity list item as well, so that we can show if an activity is cancelled. So we'll open up the activity list item, and just at the top here, just underneath the segment, we'll say activity.isCancelled, $, and then we'll just add a label here, and we'll make it attached to the top, and we'll give it a color equal to red and a content equal to cancelled, and we'll make the text appear in the center, so we'll give it some style, and we'll say text align and specify center. And now we can go test. So let's go and take a look, and let's give this a refresh. And we've got our cancel button there. If we click on cancel, we see the loading indicator, the manage event is disabled, and we see our ribbon on the top left of this. If I reactivate, ribbon goes away and the manage event comes back. So let's just cancel it again. And if we go back to our activities, then we can see that we've got our cancelled flag at the top of the item as well. What we'll do next is we'll add another user interface element so that when we hover over any attendee, we get to see their profile card on this page as well. And we'll take a look at that next.